Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the VMblog Expert Interview Series. And today we're happy to once again be joined by Simon Taylor, the founder and CEO of HYCU. Now, we were just kind of chatting and we're connecting again online, but we recently had the opportunity to connect with one another. It's about 2 weeks ago now at the IT Press Tour event. So it's really good to see you again.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Now, again, not that long ago, we spoke about your forward-thinking R Cloud solution, and now, again, you guys are at a fast pace. You've launched yet another revolutionary offering, the HYCU Generative AI initiative. I had the pleasure to see it up close and personal those 2 weeks ago. But can you tell VMblog viewers why HYCU launched this initiative, and how did you get here?
Absolutely, Dave. Thank you very much for the kind words. And obviously, it's great to be back here with you as well. HYCU is today the market leader in SaaS data protection. And so when we think about SaaS, we don't just think about individual apps and SaaS providers. We also think about public cloud services and any as a service that's being supported in the modern data estate. You'll remember this, a couple of years ago or even a year ago, we started talking about our new platform, R Cloud, the letter R dash cloud. And it was really a very simple idea to solve a very, very large problem. The problem statement being that today, the average mid-market company has their data in no less than 212 different data silos. And that's out of a universe of 30,000 SaaS applications. And you'll remember I actually wrote a book about that called Averting the SaaS Data Apocalypse. You were kind enough to cover it here on the show. And, we really took this to heart. We couldn't believe the fact that, because of all these as a service applications, 80% of the world's data goes completely unprotected. And so we started to ask ourselves, well, why is it that with all these data protection providers around here, making billions of dollars in revenue, nobody is protecting these 30,000 SaaS apps? And we realized it's because it's too much of a big problem. It's too annoying to fix. Even if you had unlimited time, money, and resources, it would take you 100 years to go out and build, all of those integrations. That's when we said there's got to be a different way. And what we did is if you remember, we launched our cloud and we added a low-code development platform called Build. And what Build does is it allows any partner, customer, or vendor to leverage a low-code development facility so that they can effectively build an integration between the SaaS service that they are concerned about protecting and our own platform. And by doing this, we were able to reduce the development time from about a year to 3 days. And this was kind of a very, very big, and obviously you covered it really well. We really appreciate that. It was a really pretty big innovation in the industry, because typically if you say to somebody, oh, I want to go protect ServiceNow or Workday or Snowflake or what have you, they immediately think, oh my gosh, I better raise $100 million. I better go, hire 100 engineers. It's going to take me 2 years to do that. And the big question became, well, why don't the SaaS vendors themselves do it? And the reality is it's not their core business. Why should they take, a third of their engineers and go and build that? So I think we filled a really, really, really massive chasm in the market in terms of problem statement. But what always bothered me, Dave, is those 3 days to build the integration. Because even though, we used to joke, it's like going 3 years to 3 days, it seems wonderful. But if you're an engineer, an architect, a DevOps person, if you're deep in the street in your own industry, even spending 3 days to build something still felt like too much. Now, as someone who knows this industry really well, you might think I'm crazy saying that, but the reality is that people have so many conflicting priorities. Okay, so we were sitting there and we were thinking about this 3-day problem. And, the world was on fire with artificial intelligence announcements. And what we kept seeing over and over again was that they were not delivering on customer value, especially in the infrastructure software space. Everybody and their mother had their own AI announcement. Most of them, I describe them as a map of your website, right? You go to the Copilot and you say, tell me information on this. And it says, well, here's the product page and this has the information on it. That to me is not leveraging artificial intelligence and its capabilities to drive customer value. It's leveraging the term AI to drive valuation. So I think, to begin with, when we looked at AI, we sort of said, we're not going to build something unless there's actually something to be built. And so coming back to this problem of taking 3 days to build an integration on our cloud, it suddenly occurred to, my executive team, Sabaya Sundaram, myself, and Goran Gorevsky, our CTO. We sort of sat down and I said to them, what if we could take an LLM and we could train it to really understand the delta between the SaaS APIs and the SaaS integration that you want to protect and our very, very specific low-code development platform. And we said, so if we could do that, could we avoid hallucinations? Could we actually set this up so that it would expedite the delivery of these integrations at a much more rapid pace without introducing any kind of systemic risk for the customer? And that's exactly what we were able to do. We partnered with an amazing company. I think, honestly, the best, LLM when it comes to the best model, when it comes to development, software engineering, is Anthropic and the Claude model. And so what we did is we leveraged the Claude model by Anthropic. We enriched it with all of our knowledge around HYCU, our cloud, data protection, security, et cetera. And you can now develop a complete end-to-end integration in as little as 36 minutes. So we've brought it down from 3 days to 36 minutes. I'm still pushing for 3 minutes. We'll get there one day, I promise you. But I think this really, really opens up our capacity to serve our customers and leverage generative AI to drive true customer value.
Yeah, I think you said it right. 2023 and even now early on, right into 2024, every company out there is talking about AI and plugging in. Oh, our product now supports AI, and it's really, tell us more about how you're doing that. But at the IT press tour, I was firsthand got a demo by Sabaya and saw exactly what you're doing. And it's interesting because you're using AI, not just for the sake of AI, but to solve a specific problem. And realistically, like the timing wise of what you just said, this has huge impacts on HYCU R Cloud.
100%. I jokingly refer to us as beyond the bot, because I think these chatbots are phenomenal and they do all sorts of wonderful things. But the extent to which they're being used to dress up a website and call it AI enhanced or enriched, this is marketing. And I think we've always tried to be core to our, stay true to our core values of authenticity, grit, and empathy. And you're certainly not being empathic if you're building things that only generate value for yourself. And so I think I feel really good about what the team was able to deliver. And I'll tell you, it was interesting watching IT Press Tour. You've got some of the brightest, sort of voices in the industry looking at our artificial intelligence, generative AI platform. And you sort of think to yourself, gosh, this is quite intense. We're actually showing this thing off now. And what was so great was, as I think everyone went deeper, looked at the code, looked under the covers, and was able to see what we were producing with it. I think that was a real game changer. It was wonderful for me to see. It was a great experience. And I want to thank you, Dave, for obviously taking the time to do that with us.
You mentioned Anthropic. Talk a little bit, if you would, how does the integration with Anthropic's Claude AI model differentiate the data protection platform that you have from competitors?
Yes. So I think the beauty of this is that it only works because we are able to train Anthropic's model on this delta, this sort of gap, the space between what the SaaS service is made up of and what we are asking of a user or an engineer when they are coding our low-code development platform. So in other words, if you took the same enriched Anthropic model and tried to use it, somewhere else, it's going to come up with gobbledygook. It's not going to work. The reason why it works is because we ask of our customers and partners such a specific um, set of categories of information topics, that we were able to then teach the model how to understand and look out specifically for those and present that information. So effectively what you're doing is you're saying, Salesforce has these major parameters. Here's how we would code that for our platform. Here are the requirements our platform would ask an engineer to meet. And you sort of, you set it up so that the LLM is trained to sort of meet in the middle. Now, one very, very important thing I want to say is that we have a very deep-seated belief that artificial intelligence must be human supervised, especially in mission-critical industries such as data protection, frankly. We do not believe that AI is, should be, would, or will ever be in a state where you'd want to just let it roam free and hope to God that it's doing the right thing. So because of that, when we say it takes 36 minutes to code, we are not including the certification process that you do have to go through to put something on our platform. I think I point that out because I think a lot of times we think, oh gosh, are we introducing risk by virtue of the fact that we're leveraging this Anthropic model? And the answer is no, because as I said before, that delta is a very, very narrow set of requirements that the model has been completely trained on. But B, because we put every one of those integrations to the same level of human rigor and testing and certification, regardless of whether or not it's built by humans or built by the AI itself.
Now, I kind of said it before, but the way I believe that you're introducing generative AI into the product to help with the coding and delivering faster to market SaaS integrations is super smart and a great use of Gen AI.
Thank you very much.
What's been the feedback that you've gotten already from the time savings and the intelligence that it provides your users?
It's been pretty incredible. I mean, I was talking to a partner the other day who had been working on 3 or 4 different integrations that they themselves were building for their customers that run on the our cloud platform, major SaaS modules. And they were sort of joking around with me saying, couldn't you come up with this 6 months ago? Because we've had to waste 12 whole days, to build these kinds of things. And so I love that, right? I mean, I think what it says is, we see the value right off the bat. We're not questioning the value. The value is very, very clear. It's very, quantified. And I think, in a resource constrained world that we live in, and this, anybody who's in engineering is resource constrained to some extent, time, money, and resources, nobody ever has enough. And just being able to give people back that time, I think, is critical. The other thing that I think has come to light as a result of this, even since the last IT press tour, frankly, is the fact that, ultimately, as this becomes more and more efficient, and as we are able to continue reducing this time and getting the platform out into the market, we've had customers call us and say, well, we're just going to build 100 integrations. We're going to cover it all. And one of the key drivers for that, believe it or not, is this whole NIST framework. And you've got the NIST compliance framework, SOC 2 compliance framework, but specifically in regulated industries, financial regulators are starting to show up in offices, believe it or not, and they're saying, show me where you're backing up your data to. And the problem that many CIOs are facing now is they can't show it to the regulators. They have to point to these SaaS services and say, well, call them, I guess. And if you've ever spoken to a financial services CIO, that's not an answer they like to give to a regulator. They want to be in control of their data. And I think HYCU is providing, perhaps for the first time in the modern generation, a real way for them to do that.
We talked about this offline, but I thought this was something worth sharing as well. There's a number of different generative AI solutions out there. Why did HYCU choose Anthropic to partner with on this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll be honest with you, when we conceptualized the concept, the idea, We did not have a specific LLM in mind. We didn't go into it saying, "Oh, we want to partner with Anthropic," and so. And I think this is a testament to Anthropic's value, really, in the model itself, the quality of the model. We looked at all the models. We looked at all the sort of majors, and what we found is that, two things. One, Anthropic has a very similar and shared vision with HYCU to build a safer world. They are, I don't know if you know the story of Anthropic, but they split out of OpenAI. Folks from OpenAI left specifically because they wanted to create a really, really safe model, and they wanted to invest in making it safe for humanity. And so just like we're building a safer world with data protection, they're doing the same thing with artificial intelligence. So I think, from a values perspective, that was really important to us. The second, really mission critical area, of course, was the way in which the model responded to the engineering practices we were feeding it. And what we found is that it's very, very sharp. It's very clean. And when we ran, all of these tests versus across the various different LLMs, the testing and certification process was about 50% less, well, with code that was generated by the Anthropic model, even after enrichment. And so I think that was a true testament to how powerful this model is. And obviously after that, we added the security features and the further enrichment and all of our additional knowledge. So now it's even tighter. But yeah, I think for any engineer who's looking at how to code and use generative AI, I would highly recommend Anthropic.
And then finally, when you and I talk, I like to have you break out the crystal ball, if you will, and look to the future. Talk to me a little bit. What are some of the expected trends or developments in data protection that HYCU anticipates, particularly considering your adoption of Gen AI, and how might it influence the landscape of data protection in the years to come?
It's a great question. You always ask it, and I always love it because it's kind of at the heart of what we do, right? It's thinking about where things are going and looking around the corner. And I think, look, everybody is going to adopt generative AI in their development processes one way or another. I think the market overall, when we started this, you remember there were only 5 SaaS services out of 30,000 that were protected. We've now got 68 protected, so more than 10 times anybody else, in the industry, or the aggregate of the industry, I should say. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see continued proliferation of data silos. I think these SaaS services are not going anywhere. It's a really, really good model for public clouds to deliver value to customers, and for individual vendors like HYCU, frankly, to deliver value to customers. And so that means that the 30,000 SaaS services we have today becomes 45, becomes 60, becomes 100. That number is never going to go down. And so I believe that the extent to which Gen AI can be used to automate the process of enabling automated integrations and data protection, that's going to be critical. That's going to be very, very critical. I think the other thing we're seeing is, because of AI, a whole new level of ransomware attacks. We're seeing, by the way, it's not always the most complicated things. People always ask me, they say, "Simon, you're in this space, you just launched this AI thing. How crazy and complicated are these ransomware attacks?" And I always say, the really scary ones are the simplest ones. And, a great example is, and without using any names, a very, very famous company recently, individual inside received a phone call. It sounded like their boss. They gave them the password. They unlocked the kingdom, and they lost everything. And it cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. So when you think about AI from that perspective, you think about deep fakes, you think about faking, voice, you think about all of the sophisticated ways that we can social engineering, leverage social engineering. I think the ransomware attack problem is going to go from a minor crisis to war. It's going to be really, really, really terrible to see. And I think ultimately where we will land is that the only real way to protect yourself is to have your data back in the closet. and I think ultimately, people are going to start demanding control of their data. And I'm very grateful that HYCU could, be here to lead the charge, with that effort.
Well, Simon, always a pleasure, and always, learn a lot when I talk to you. I certainly invite folks who are watching this to visit HYCU, check out our cloud, and definitely learn more about the latest initiative with Gen AI that you're offering.
Thank you, Dave. Great to be here.
All right. Take care.